oh God. All that you are is so overwhelming. And I hear the sound of your voice. All at once it's a gentle and thundering noise, oh God. All that you are is so overwhelming. I delight myself in you, captivated by your beauty. I'm overwhelmed by you. God, I run into your arms, unashamed because of mercy. I'm overwhelmed by you. Oh, I know the power of your cross, forgiven and free, forever you'll be my God, and all that you've done is so overwhelming. I delight myself in you, in the glory of your presence. I'm overwhelmed by you. God, I run into your arms, unashamed because of mercy. I'm overwhelmed by you. We gotta do the second verse again. Let's praise together. Oh, I know the power of your cross, forgiven and free, forever you'll be my God, and all that you've done is so overwhelming. I delight myself in you, in the glory of your presence. I'm overwhelmed by you. God, I run into your arms, unashamed because of mercy. I'm overwhelmed by you. You are beautiful, oh God. There is no one more beautiful. You are beautiful, God. You are the most beautiful. Oh, yes, you are wonderful. You are wonderful, oh God. There is no one more wonderful. You are wonderful, God. You are the most wonderful. Yes, you are glorious. You are glorious, oh God. There is no one more glorious. You are glorious, God. You are
that's a quick way to get me to shrink and shut down. So, oh God. See, when the Lord made me tall, He also made things like this, and then old at the same time. I can't see at that distance, so I'm not sure. Oh, see, this is. But here's what I'm going to do. I've got $1,000 worth of glasses in my top shelf here. It's sunglasses with prescription, reading glasses, and then seeing glasses. So since we'll do a little reading, I'll just look over the top. I am the grandfather of 4 beautiful grandchildren, so I can look grandfatherly, and it's not a bad thing. I sure appreciate, Will, you allowing me to come back. It means that whatever I said last time, which I don't recall, I never remember what I say. I walk out and I said, did I make any sense? Did I make any connections? Julie's like, oh yeah, you did fine. But that's a 30-year marriage will give that to you. It's just like, oh, don't worry about it. You're good. I'd like to talk a little bit today about the power of words. Jesus, if you have never heard, if you're new to the Christian faith, the New Testament writers called Jesus the Word of God. And it packs a real punch. It means, in the beginning, like in John 1, it says, in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. The same was in the beginning with God, and the worlds were created by this Word. And we go back to Genesis 1 when it says, in the beginning God created the heavens and the earth was without form and void, and darkness was upon the face of the deep. And God said. So think about the creative power of words. And then there's something about us as humans that separate us from the animals. It's in many things, but one of those is the power of reason and the power of words and the power of logic to speak to one another. I don't know about you, but words, negative words, seem to stick with you longer than positive words. My grandmother was an amazing human being. Her name was Dolores, and she spoke into my life regularly. And in 2013, I was going through one of the darkest times of my life, and I found somehow in my wife's hope chest, the thing that she brought to the marriage, the first thing that we got was this thing full of junk, and we've just been collecting ever since. Well, we were going through it one day back in 2013, and we found this stack of letters that my grandmother had written to me from the time I was about 14 until I was into my early 20s. And it was just words of affirmation, blessing, speaking life into me, talking almost prophetically about who I was going to be and what I was going to do and how God would work in my life. And although I didn't remember those words, and I didn't even hardly remember receiving the letters, when I found them, they were this rich reminder of the power, because although I didn't consciously know that I was going down this path, it was amazing to me to see that words that she spoke into my life at 14, 15, 16, 17 years old, up into my 20s. It's amazing to see how those things actually started to come to pass. It's like that, it's like these godly words became the subconscious pattern. I was able to choose a path that may not have been the path that I would have chosen had I not subconsciously had these memories, these prophetic witnesses, these words of affirming and direction. And I really, my wife for Christmas did an amazing thing. She took segments of those fragments of those letters, and she blew them up, and then she glued them to a picture frame. And then she presented me this canvas with all of these words and letters in my grandmother's handwriting, and they normally started out with, "Dear Robbie." Now she can call me Robbie, but you guys can call me Rob. I got this one friend of mine who still calls me Robbie, and I said, "You didn't even know me when I was Robbie. Why do you call me Robbie?" Anyway, that's John Cena for anybody who doesn't know. Yeah. So words are powerful, but all those positive words, I couldn't readily bring them to mind. But my grandfather, that was her first husband, he was, I won't say his name because I don't want to reflect negatively on him, although I'm going to tell you about him in a negative sense. But, I speak my grandmother's name. He actually redeemed himself later on, and in my 40s, he really began to speak a blessing back into my life after years of just being a hard-hearted, cruel person. But one day, I was 10 years old, and he looked at me. They were playing cards, and drinking beer, and smoking cigarettes. Not that there's anything wrong with any of that. Not watching Captain Kangaroo. If anybody picked up the lyrics there, thank you. Got a couple of nods. They're older people in the congregation. Smoking cigarettes and watching. Yeah. Why do I do this? These little quagmires I find myself in when I'm speaking. But anyway, my grandfather, they were sitting there playing cards, smoking, talking, laughing, just this, male, powerful environment. I just wanted to be around these men, these big men in my life. I was 10 years old, and I was interjecting something, I don't know. I've always been a bit of a talker, and he turned around to me and he goes, "Rob, I'll give you a dime if you'll stand there against the wall and not say another word." And I stood there against the wall and I said, "I'll say a word to you, you little son of a my goodness." My deep-seated hatred. And it stuck in me like a knife. It stuck in me like a poison dart. The words that are spoken, man, they're so powerful. Jesus said, "The words that I speak unto you, they are spirit and they are life." He was speaking life-changing words, but in the power of the tongue is both life and death. And it's the way we use our words. So I know everyone in here remembers, some cruel jab or some statement that has made you think, "I'll never amount to anything. You're stupid. You're a fool. You'll never learn to read." Blah blah blah. Fill in the blanks. Whatever your word is, right? But the Lord. It's like I was saying in service today from Luke, the 3rd chapter, where there's the baptism and Jesus comes up out of the water and this voice from heaven says, "This is my beloved Son in whom I am well pleased." Can you imagine hearing that? I said this today too. My dad used to grab me and my brother in headlocks and, he'd rough us up a little bit. He goes, "My boys." My dad's a country boy. "My boys, my boys." I was busting out of the seam, man. That man loved me. He was the biggest, full of life, powerful, John Wayne-like figure, and he thought I was important. Man, the shirt buttons would just pop when he would say things like that. And same with Jesus. Before he went into his ministry, this was God saying, "My boy." And we have the power to do that with one another. We have the power to speak words of life into each other. But it starts, before we can do that, we need to know where each other are. Have you ever tried to solve somebody's problem, but they've followed a different path? They've come up a different way. Their experiences, their education, their genetic makeup. These all come together to form the kind of people we are, and even our ability to understand the words that somebody else is speaking to us. Look at these words over in James, the 1st chapter. 19th verse, he says, "Know this." Now, by the way, James, you talk about growing up in a home. This guy here is the brother of Jesus. And he is, who knows? He's, how'd you like to grow up in the household of Jesus? It was like, wow, man, what am I ever going to amount to? How can I top that one? That's a pretty big, tall order. But here you got James, the brother of Jesus. He says, "Know this, my beloved brothers. Let every person be quick to hear, slow to speak, slow to anger." Quick to hear, slow to speak, slow to anger. And all of us express anger indifferently. Everybody gets angry. It's not just, volcanoes like me. I'm one of those guys that, if I get upset, You know, it's like, God bless America, what's going on? You know, I'm at work and if the fire will rage, you know, and they are going, you know, I kind of suppress it a little bit there. I'm 50 years old, so I've learned how to control it a little bit. But, you know, when my wife and I were first married, the Dallas Cowboys lost one day, and we were walking up to the house, and I was upset, I was angry because the Dallas Cowboys lost. I gave up football after this. But we were, you know, upset, and I was and I was trying to get the door unlocked, and then she barked at me in some way, and I just turned around and punched. Pow! Not her. The stucco wall. The stucco wall. You know, in California, everything's made of stucco. And I mean, that hand hurt me for years. So I was a volcano. I'm a little more moderated now. I rarely, you know, lose it in that way. I mean, almost never. Can't remember the last time. But other people have anger in other ways. It's that passive-aggressive kind of a way. It's like, oh, I'm just not going to talk. And the day goes on, and it gets a little longer and a little longer. And you're really wanting to control. Anger is about control, right? It's about, if I pop off, I want everybody to know, hey, this is the line that I want you to follow. And if you play that kind of passive-aggressive anger manifestation, it's kind of like, and then you wait for somebody to go, what's wrong? What can I do? Right? It's about control and manipulation. But James's point here, James's desire is that we would first be quick to hear. Quick to hear. Start to listen to the other person. And listen and dwell on it and ask questions and be reflective and be honoring. Quick to hear. And then slow to speak. We can't possibly know. I think it's amazing right now in the media and the Twitter feeds. It's everybody's quick to speak. Quick to say their opinion, quick to pop off, hashtag blah, 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 you know. They're throwing their attitudes out there without reflecting. It's this whole thing like up at Smollett, up there in Chicago. Man, as soon as that came out, man, everybody jumped in. It was me too. About 2 or 3 days, I said, you know, for me, because I'm not a big Trump fan, it's like all those MAGA hat guys. My God, what in the world? What is this world coming to? Bunch of rednecks. Then a couple days later, when he didn't want to turn over his phone, I was like going, You know, and a couple weeks later, then you find out maybe it wasn't always what we thought it was going to be. But a lot of people were quick to speak, quick to attack, quick to jump in. And then we have all these biases, right? These confirmation biases. If we've got bigotry or hatred or homophobia, we quickly grab those memories and those ideas and we leverage them for our communication to one another. But James is saying no. Before you speak, understand. Be quick to listen. Embrace the other. Understand their perspective. Understand where they're coming from. If when we do that and then we speak, man, there's something that has been built between those people. Between the person speaking and the person listening. And then, you know, sometimes when I get the other person's perspective, not one of us acts out of irrationality. Even when I look into you, those of you that I know, and I look and I think, that's irrational. Why are they doing that? Not to them it's not irrational. It's the most perfectly rational thing that they could be doing at that time. I remember watching one of my sons. He'd be losing it about something, and I'm just like going, what in the world? What's his problem? That's how God ends up saying, well, Rob, that's just like you. All of my kids' problems they got from me. And but they're acting out of rationality. In their minds, it's exactly the way they ought to act. In your minds, when you're acting the way you act, that is perfectly rational. But you have full possession, and you can properly look at somebody else and go, man, I don't know why they do what they do. But it's when we get in and we learn the other. And we give people grace, and we try to get into their minds and try to understand where they're coming from. When we will give that kind of grace to someone else, find out where their perspective is, have a little empathy, find out what their experiences, what their sufferings. Did they have a grandfather? Did they have a grandmother? Where did they come from? What was their path? Then he says, for the anger of man does not produce the rightness that God requires. Therefore, put away all filthiness and rampant wickedness. I love stuff like that. Rampant wickedness. I don't know that anybody here is doing rampant wickedness. I hope not. But, if it is, don't do it. And receive with meekness. See, the reason why he's setting us up to become good listeners is because we're going to receive with meekness the engrafted Word of God, which is able to save your souls. We know that we're saved by grace through faith. It's not like somehow, I'm going to be saved by, some, great act, or, God, the Lord has done the thing. But you know what it'll save you? If you receive with meekness, if you listen to another, this will save your marriage. This will save your kids. How many times I was able to get to the heart of my kids by just letting them speak. Sometimes they've said, like my daughter, Mary, this was not very long ago actually, now that I think about it. It was like 2 weeks ago. We were in the living room, and she was getting defensive about something. And Massie's, we get to be debaters. Will knows that about Clayton. And my middle son, he's a debater, right? And we get in there, and they're wrestling with words and doing their thing, and Mary's the same way. Mary is this fiery, 5'3" powerhouse of energy and what's that? And opinions. Yeah, she gets that honestly from me and her mother. And so she was going off about something, and I was like, yes, Mary, but. She goes, stop, Dad, shut up. And I was like, oh, okay. And then she just went on and on. And then I said, okay. And then I finished up. It was nothing. It was like some political thing. And I was taking like a Jesus direction. And sometimes people don't like Jesus directions. It'll get you killed. But you know what was amazing? By me not going, hey, you're 20 years old. I'm 50 years old. You don't tell me to shut up. What's your problem? Get out of my house. This is my house. No, I didn't do any of that. I just sat there and she finally goes, sorry, Dad. I shouldn't have said shut up. I didn't mean to say shut up. It just came out of my mouth before I knew it. Oh, man. See, I won. She doesn't realize I won that whole thing because I didn't respond to her. And the power of a parent who will let their kid go off, and not say, okay, listen, I've got all this, this reservoir of knowledge, and I'm fortunate enough that I get to go to a church every weekend and just throw out my stuff, whether it's right or wrong, I don't know half the time, but I'm throwing that out there. I get an outlet. Some of you parents don't have an outlet, so your poor kids get it. It's like, okay, now you're going to hear what I got to say, right? It's the truth. We do that. We just bombard our kids with information, with words. Sometimes we just need to listen. And spouses, man, listen. We can all I'm a fixer. Julie goes, this is a problem, blah, blah, blah. What do we do? Oh, no, I'm going to take care of it right now. That kid is not going to talk to you that way. I'm going upstairs. They can talk to me like that. They just can't talk to her that way. But that's not the... Then she's always like, no, settle down. Don't be so defensive. But we got to let each other speak. We got to give each other room. Give each other... And if we do... We're able to save our souls by being that receptive kind of person, listening to the words of others. It's powerful. And it's so powerful that James goes on in the 3rd chapter somewhere. He says, for we all stumble in many ways, 3:2. And if anyone does not stumble in what he says, he is a perfect man, able to bridle his whole body. We put bits in the mouth of horses so that they obey us and guide their whole bodies as well. Look at the ships also. They are so very large and driven by strong winds, yet they are guided by such a very small rudder. He's talking about the things that the tongue is capable of doing. The words that we speak, they can set fields on fire. We have the power in our mouths to speak life to our children, to our spouses, to our friends, to the co-workers. The words that we speak, set the destiny of the world. If quantum mechanics is true and a butterfly flaps its wings in some, Nebraskan field and it sets a typhoon off in the Philippines, I'm not sure that that's true, but think about the words that we speak and the long-term effect of those words. And then start to speak words to yourself that are gracious. The words that we speak to ourselves, aren't they the most harsh? My little internal voice is the strongest. God, get off you lazy. God, you should have done that. What were you thinking when you did that? You're an idiot. Man, will you never learn? Have you guys ever said those kind of things to yourself? And those kind of words, man, they're hard to escape. You can't hardly escape. I can leave the room if somebody's abusing me, but I can't leave the room when I'm abusing me. The power of the tongue, the power of words, it can control so many things. It has the power, and it's how, honestly, we want to control others. We use our words to try to control others. And that's why the power of listening to others, you're giving them the power. You're transferring power when you listen, when you're slow to speak. You're transferring that power to them. You're saying, I see you as an individual. I see you as an autonomous person, and I'm not going to control your life. Man, that is, James said it, it's in the Bible, but that's not kingdom principles. That's principles that you can use whether you believe in God or don't. You don't have to believe in God to apply that principle to your life. I hope that was meaningful in some way to you guys. And thank you for the music, guys, was amazing. I was really touched by the songs. Anytime you can have songs that glorify and magnify God and make Him bigger. And the problem with our age today is that we've grown so rational. We've learned so much as human beings. We've developed so much that all we see is the reflection of our own creation back at us. And we've lost this vision and this mystery. And without mystery, it's all for naught. We've got to recognize that there is something there. And I love the graphics. Whoever did the graphics on that one with this kind of star in the lower right-hand corner that was radiating out, and planets and stars. It just, the magnitude of the universe just reflects the magnitude and greatness of our God. And when we are just in awe of those things, and we'll take that in, I just appreciate it. The music here brought me into a place of awe to reflect on God. So appreciate that very much. And God bless you all.